Jake Morrison stood at the window of Earth's Hope, watching the massive space station grow larger as their ship approached. After 3 months of travel through hyperspace, they had finally reached Nexus Prime. The diplomatic vessel carried humanity's first delegation to the Galactic Council, and Jake felt the weight of his entire species on his shoulders. "It's bigger than I imagined," said Colonel Lisa Grant, joining him at the observation deck. The military advisor had been quiet during most of the journey, but Jake could see the tension in her eyes. Behind them, Dr. Ben Carter was still reviewing his scientific presentations while Maya Johnson practiced her cultural exchange speech. The space station was truly enormous. It stretched for hundreds of miles in all directions, with docking bays that could hold ships the size of small cities. Thousands of vessels from dozens of different worlds filled the area around Nexus Prime. Jake had studied images of alien spacecraft, but seeing them in person was overwhelming. Some looked like living creatures with organic curves, while others were perfect geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly. "Remember, we only get one chance at this," Jake told his team as they prepared for docking. "Humanity has worked for 50 years to meet the Council's requirements. We've eliminated war, solved poverty, and developed faster-than-light travel. Today, we take our place among the stars." The docking process took 2 hours. Earth's Hope was tiny compared to most vessels at the station, and they had to wait for clearance from traffic control. When they finally stepped off their ship, Jake felt like a child entering a world of giants. The docking bay ceiling rose so high that clouds formed near the top. Aliens of every imaginable shape and size moved through the area, some walking, others floating, and a few that seemed to phase in and out of solid matter. Their escort was a tall, thin being with blue skin and 4 arms. "I am Attendant Veltar of the Zephyrian delegation. Chancellor Vextar sends his greetings to the human representatives." The alien's voice came through a translation device that made every word sound musical. As they traveled through the station's corridors, Jake marveled at the technology around them. The walls seemed to be made of living light, and the floors adjusted their texture automatically for each species that walked on them. Maya kept taking notes on everything she saw, while Ben asked endless questions about the engineering behind it all. The council chambers were even more impressive than the docking bay. The circular room had tiers of seats rising toward a domed ceiling that showed a perfect view of the stars outside. 47 different species had representatives present, and Jake recognized most of them from his studies. The proud hegemony delegation sat in their traditional armor, while the ancient consortium members seemed to shimmer like living water. Chancellor Vextar called the session to order with a sound that reminded Jake of wind chimes. "We gather today to consider the application of the species known as humans for membership in the Galactic Council. The floor recognizes Ambassador Jake Morrison of Earth." Jake walked to the center of the chamber, feeling hundreds of alien eyes watching his every move. He had practiced this speech countless times, but standing here made it feel completely different. "Honored members of the Council, I come before you representing not just Earth, but the dreams and hopes of all humanity. We seek to join your community as equals, bringing our unique perspectives and abilities to benefit all." The presentation went well at first. Jake spoke about humanity's rapid technological advancement, their success in creating a peaceful global government, and their desire to explore the stars. Ben demonstrated some of Earth's scientific achievements, including their breakthrough in quantum physics that had made faster-than-light travel possible. Maya shared examples of human art, music, and literature that had moved even alien audiences to tears. But then came the questions about Earth's history. "Tell us about your species' military conflicts," demanded Admiral Krelvok of the hegemony. The massive alien's voice boomed through the chamber like thunder. "Our records show centuries of warfare among your own kind." Jake had expected this question, but it still made his heart race. Yes, humanity has known war. We've made mistakes and learned from them. But we've also shown the ability to change and grow. For the last 50 years, Earth has known only peace. 50 years is nothing, hissed Elder Tessara from the consortium. Section. Your species killed millions of your own kind in conflicts that lasted only years. What guarantee do we have that you won't turn this violence against us? Because we've evolved beyond that, Lisa Grant said, stepping forward. Every species here has a history of conflict. The difference is that we've learned to control our aggressive instincts and channel them into exploration and discovery. The debate continued for hours. Some species spoke in favor of humanity's application, particularly the smaller worlds that saw humans as potential allies against the larger powers. But the major factions remained skeptical. The Zephyrians worried about human unpredictability, while the hegemony saw them as potential military rivals. As the day wore on, Jake realized that the decision had already been made before they arrived. The questions weren't meant to evaluate humanity fairly, but to justify a rejection that powerful council members had already agreed upon. The smaller species might support Earth, but they didn't have enough votes to matter. When Chancellor Vextar called for the final vote, Jake held his breath. The results came quickly, 43 votes against, 4 in favor. The rejection was overwhelming and humiliating. The Council finds that the human species does not meet the standards required for membership at this time, Vextar announced. Furthermore, due to concerns about their aggressive nature and unpredictable behavior, humans are banned from all Council territories, trade routes, and diplomatic contact for a period of no less than 200 years. The words hit Jake like a physical blow. Not only had humanity been rejected, but they were being completely cut off from galactic civilization. Around him, his team stood in stunned silence. Maya had tears in her eyes, while Ben stared at the floor in disbelief. Even Lisa, trained for the worst possible scenarios, looked shaken. This decision is final and not subject to appeal, the Chancellor continued. Human vessels found in Council space will be escorted back to their home system. Any attempt to establish unauthorized contact with Council member species will be considered an act of aggression. As they walked back to their ship, Jake felt the weight of failure crushing down on him. He had been so confident that reason and good intentions would be enough. Instead, humanity had been cast out before they could even begin to prove themselves. The dreams of joining a galactic community were over, replaced by the reality of isolation among the stars. The journey home felt much longer than the trip out. Jake spent most of it staring out at the stars, wondering what humanity would do now, that the galaxy had rejected them. He couldn't know that this rejection would become the catalyst for something far greater than simple Council membership. Humanity was about to discover that sometimes the greatest strength comes from standing alone. 25 years had passed since the rejection at Nexus Prime. Earth looked completely different now. Massive orbital shipyards surrounded the planet like metal rings, building vessels that no Council species had ever seen. The moon had been transformed into a fortress and research center, while Mars hosted colonies that served as humanity's gateway to the outer solar system. President Ryan Clark stood in his office overlooking the rebuilt city of New Geneva. Through the windows, he could see the launch trails of ships heading to distant stars. Each day brought new reports from human explorers mapping unknown regions of space far from Council territories. The rejection that had once seemed like humanity's greatest failure had become their greatest opportunity. The latest reports from the Outer Rim expedition, sir, said his aide, handing him a datapad. Ryan scanned the information quickly. Captain Alex Rodriguez had discovered 3 more habitable worlds in the Kepler sector, while Dr. Katie Walsh's research team had made another breakthrough in quantum tunneling technology. Jake Morrison entered the office carrying his own stack of reports. The former ambassador now served as Earth's Director of Strategic Development, overseeing humanity's expansion into space. The years had added gray to his hair, but his eyes still held the same determination that had carried him through the council. Rejection. The Titan shipyards completed another batch of exploration vessels, Jake reported. Alex's fleet will have 12 new ships ready for deep space missions next month. We're mapping star systems faster than we ever imagined possible. Ryan nodded, reviewing the construction reports. The ships being built in human yards were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Without access to council technology, human engineers had been forced to develop their own solutions. The results were often better than what established civilizations used. "What about Katie's quantum drive project?" Ryan asked. "She's ready for the first full-scale test," Jake replied. "If it works, we'll be able to travel between star systems without using hyperspace lanes at all. We won't need council permission to go anywhere." 300 miles above Earth's surface, Dr. Katie Walsh worked in her laboratory aboard the research station Armstrong. The young scientist had been Ben Carter's best student before his retirement. Now she led humanity's most important technological project, developing faster-than-light travel that didn't rely on the established galactic infrastructure. "Run the simulation again," Katie told her team. The quantum tunneling drive required precise calculations to avoid tearing holes in space-time itself. Traditional faster-than-light travel used natural hyperspace corridors that the Council controlled. Katie's drive would create its own temporary tunnels through space, giving humanity complete freedom of movement. The test results appeared on her screens, showing stable energy patterns and successful tunnel formation. "It's working," she whispered, hardly believing her own data. "We can go anywhere in the galaxy without asking anyone's permission." Meanwhile, Captain Alex Rodriguez guided his ship through an uncharted star system, 1,200 light-years from Earth, the exploration vessel. Scout's Honor was one of the first ships built with human-only technology. Its stealth systems made it invisible to Council sensors, while its advanced shields could survive almost any natural phenomenon in space. "Captain, we're picking up artificial signals from the fourth planet," reported his communications officer. Alex felt his heart race. Finding another intelligent species outside Council space would be a major discovery. The planet was covered in vast oceans with scattered island chains. As they approached, they received a transmission in an unknown language. Alex ordered his ship to respond with mathematical sequences, the universal language of intelligence. The response came quickly, followed by coordinates for a landing site on the largest island. Alex took a small team down to the surface, where they met beings unlike any they had studied. The aliens were tall and graceful, with skin that shimmered like water and large eyes adapted for underwater vision. "We are the Kithara," their leader explained through a translation device. "We have watched your ships exploring these distant regions. You are not from the Council worlds." Alex shook his head. "We're from Earth. The Council rejected our application for membership 25 years ago." The Kithara leader made a sound that seemed like flowing water. "They rejected us as well, 300 years ago. The Council said our spiritual practices were too primitive for civilized beings. We have lived in exile ever since. This meeting changed everything for humanity." The Kithara had technology the Council lacked, developed during centuries of independent advancement. More importantly, they proved that Earth wasn't alone in facing rejection from the galactic community. Back on Earth, diplomat Helen Brooks worked to establish formal relations with the Kithara. The aquatic beings shared their knowledge of other rejected species scattered throughout unexplored space. Within months, human ships were making contact with a dozen different civilizations that had been cast out by the Council. Agent Carl Santis operated from the shadows, gathering intelligence about Council activities. His network of contacts included traders, smugglers, and dissatisfied citizens from various member worlds. The information he collected painted a disturbing picture of council politics. The hegemony engineered our rejection, Carl reported to Jake during a secret meeting. They saw humanity's rapid advancement as a threat to their military dominance. Several other species wanted to accept us, but the hegemony pressured them to vote against us. Jake studied the intelligence reports with growing anger. They didn't reject us because we were too violent. They rejected us because they were afraid of competition. The revelation spread quickly through human leadership. President Clark called an emergency session of the Terran Council, Earth's new governing body. The meeting included representatives from every human colony and military installation in known space. The Council didn't just reject us, Clark announced to the Assembly. They deliberately sabotaged our application to maintain their own power structure. We owe them nothing. The response was immediate and unified. If the Council wanted to play politics with humanity's future, Earth would build its own future without them. Resources poured into shipbuilding, research, and exploration. Human colonies spread across dozens of star systems, each one contributing to Earth's growing strength. Dr. Katie Walsh's quantum drive became standard equipment on all new human vessels. Captain Alex Rodriguez established the first human naval academy on Europa, training officers for a fleet that grew larger every month. Helen Brooks created the Terran Diplomatic Corps, managing relations with the growing alliance of rejected species. By the end of the 25th year since rejection, humanity controlled more space than many Council member species. Their technology surpassed galactic standards in several areas, and their military could defend against any threat the Council might send. The galaxy was about to learn that rejecting humanity had been the biggest mistake in Council history. Earth was no longer asking for permission to join galactic civilization. They were building their own, and it was better than anything the Council had created. 50 years after the rejection, President Maria Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the massive space station Liberty Prime. The station orbited the human colony world of New Terra, serving as the capital of what had become known as the Terran Federation. Through the transparent walls, she could see hundreds of ships coming and going, carrying goods and people between dozens of star systems. The young president was the daughter of Captain Alex Rodriguez, the famous explorer who had first made contact with the Cathara. She had grown up hearing stories of the old Earth, the one that had begged for acceptance from the Galactic Council. That world seemed like ancient history now. The monthly production reports, Madam President, said her aide, handing her a data tablet. Maria scanned the numbers with satisfaction. Human shipyards were producing more vessels than ever before, while the colonies reported record harvests and manufacturing output. The Federation had become entirely self-sufficient, needing nothing. From Council Space. Admiral Tony Miller arrived for their scheduled meeting, his uniform decorated with medals from a dozen successful campaigns. The Terran fleet had grown from a handful of exploration ships to a force that could challenge any military in the galaxy. Under Tony's leadership, human naval doctrine had evolved far beyond anything the Council used. The new ships are performing better than expected, Tony reported. The TFS Freedom completed its shakedown cruise yesterday, and Captain Davis says the gravity manipulation drives work perfectly. We can outrun anything the Council has, and our weapons hit harder than their heaviest battleships. Maria nodded, reviewing the technical specifications. Human technology had advanced rapidly during the isolation years. Without access to established galactic science, Earth's researchers had developed completely new approaches to faster-than-light travel, energy weapons, and defensive systems. The results often surprised even their creators. Commander Lisa Park entered the room carrying tactical analysis reports. The young strategist had revolutionized military thinking with her unconventional approach to space combat. While Council fleets fought in traditional formations, human ships used hit-and-run tactics that confused enemy commanders. The war games with the Cathara went well, Lisa reported. Their bioships work perfectly with our stealth technology. If we ever face the Council military, they won't know what hit them. The Federation had grown far beyond just humans and Cathara. Over the past decades, more rejected species had joined the alliance. The Altnai brought their mastery of energy. Shields, while the Zephyrian exiles contributed advanced sensor technology. Each species added their own strengths to the growing coalition. On the industrial world of Titan Prime, Merchant Captain Steve Coleman supervised the loading of his cargo ship. The vessel carried advanced human technology bound for independent colonies throughout the Outer Rim. Trade had become one of the Federation's greatest weapons, offering superior products at fair prices to worlds tired of Council exploitation. The antigrav generators are secured in Bay 3, reported his cargo master. The colonies on Kepler 7 are paying triple the usual rate for them. Seems the Council suppliers can't deliver equipment that actually works. Steve smiled as he reviewed the shipping manifest. Every successful trade mission weakened the Council's economic control over the galaxy. Independent worlds were discovering that they didn't need the established powers to survive and prosper. The Federation offered them a better alternative. Doctor Amy Foster worked in her laboratory on the research world of Darwin Station, developing new terraforming techniques that could transform barren planets into garden worlds. Her revolutionary approach used genetically modified organisms to rapidly establish breathable atmospheres and fertile soil. What once took centuries could now be accomplished in decades. The microorganisms have successfully converted the atmosphere. On Test Site 7, Amy reported to her research team, oxygen levels are now suitable for human habitation, and the soil shows excellent fertility readings. We can begin agricultural trials next month. The terraforming breakthrough had given the Federation a massive advantage over the Council. While established civilizations fought over limited habitable worlds, humans could create their own wherever they chose. Each new colony strengthened the Federation's position in the galaxy. Back on Earth, intelligence reports painted a concerning picture of Council politics. The rejection of humanity had created unexpected consequences throughout galactic civilization. Several member species had begun questioning the Council's decisions, particularly the smaller worlds that felt ignored by the major powers. Agent Carl Santos had built an extensive network of contacts throughout Council space. His latest reports described growing unrest among member worlds, economic problems caused by corruption, and military failures against independent pirates and raiders. The Council that had once seemed so powerful and unified was showing cracks. 3 more Council worlds have opened secret trade negotiations with us, Carl reported during a classified briefing. They're offering raw materials in exchange for our technology. The official government doesn't know about it, but local administrators are desperate for equipment that actually works. The intelligence painted a clear picture. The Council was weakening while the Federation grew stronger. Member worlds were losing faith in their leaders. Military forces were struggling with outdated equipment, and the economy was stagnating under corrupt bureaucracy. On the military training world of Sparta Base, new recruits learned tactics that would have amazed Council commanders. Human military doctrine emphasized speed, flexibility, and innovation over the rigid formations the galactic tradition demanded. Every officer was trained to think independently and adapt to changing situations. Lieutenant Colonel Janet White watched her students practice boarding actions against simulated enemy vessels. The young soldiers moved with precision and creativity that would have impressed their ancestors. These weren't the desperate defenders of an isolated world, but the confident warriors of a rising power. Remember, Speed and surprise are our greatest advantages, Janet told her class. Council forces train for set-piece battles with predictable tactics. We hit them where they don't expect us and disappear before they can respond. The Federation military had never fought a major war, but everyone knew that conflict with the Council was inevitable. The question wasn't whether they would fight, but when and under what circumstances. Human leaders prepared for every possibility, from defensive actions to full-scale invasion of Council territory. President Maria Rodriguez returned to her office on Liberty Prime, where reports from across the Federation waited for her attention. Colony worlds were thriving, trade networks were expanding, and the military grew stronger every day. The civilization that had once begged for Council acceptance now rivaled the greatest powers in the galaxy. The irony wasn't lost on her. By rejecting humanity, the Council had created their greatest threat. Earth was no longer a minor world seeking membership in galactic civilization. They had become the leaders of a new order that challenged everything the old powers represented. Soon, the Council would realize their mistake. But by then, it would be too late to fix it. The emergency alarm echoed through the Council chambers on Nexus Prime as Chancellor Vex Tar received the latest reports from the Outer Rim. His hands shook as he read the data, hardly believing what his intelligence services were telling him. Entire star systems had gone dark in the past month, their signals simply disappearing from galactic communication networks. "Show me the tactical display," Vexstar ordered, his voice no longer carrying the authority it once had. The holographic map that appeared before him showed a horrifying sight. Red markers indicated systems that had been consumed by the invaders, creating a growing stain across the galaxy's edge. Admiral Vorthak of the Hegemony stood before the assembled Council representatives, his armor scarred from recent battles. The proud warrior who had once dismissed humanity as primitive now looked defeated and desperate. "The Void Hunters have taken the Rigel sector," he reported. "Our entire Fourth Fleet was destroyed in the defense of Rigel Prime. These machines adapt to our weapons faster than we can develop new ones." Elder Tisara of the Consortium spoke with a voice like breaking glass. "Our ancient archives contain no record of such beings. They consume entire worlds to fuel their expansion, leaving nothing but empty space behind. Traditional weapons cannot stop them. The invasion had begun 6 months ago when strange ships appeared at the galaxy's rim. The vessels looked like geometric nightmares made of black metal and pulsing energy. They moved with purpose, systematically destroying everything in their path. Attempts at communication failed completely. The Void Hunters had no interest in negotiation or surrender. Dr. Nathan Cooper worked frantically in his hidden laboratory on the Council Research Station Omega-7. The human scientist had been living undercover in Council space for 15 years, studying alien technology and culture. His false identity as a Centauri researcher had never been questioned, but now his real mission had become critical. "The quantum disruption patterns are consistent with our theoretical models," Nathan reported during his secret transmission to Earth. "The Void Hunters use a form of synthetic consciousness that processes information through quantum matrices. They're vulnerable to the same energy frequencies that power our tunnel drives." The message took 3 days to reach President Maria Rodriguez on Liberty Prime. When it arrived, she immediately called an emergency meeting of the Federation Council. The invasion that was consuming Council space would eventually reach Federation territory if nothing was done to stop it. "How long do we have?" asked Admiral Tony Miller, studying the tactical projections. "Based on their current rate of advance, they'll reach the inner systems within 2 years," replied Commander Lisa Park. "But if they consume the industrial worlds of the hegemony, they'll have the resources to accelerate their expansion." The debate that followed was intense. General Susan Hayes led the faction that wanted to maintain Federation neutrality. "Let The Council faced the consequences of their arrogance, she argued. They rejected us when we needed help. Why should we save them now? President Rodriguez understood the desire for revenge, but she also recognized the larger threat. If the Void Hunters consume the entire galaxy, they'll eventually turn on us too. We can't hide in our corner of space forever. Meanwhile, the war was going badly for the Council forces. The hegemony's traditional tactics proved useless against an enemy that learned from every encounter. Massive fleet battles that should have lasted days were over in hours, with Council ships destroyed by weapons they had never seen before. The Altarian science. Minister Zeleth worked desperately to find some weakness in the invaders' technology. Her research teams had analyzed wreckage from destroyed Void Hunter ships, but the machines seemed to have no obvious flaws. They repair themselves faster than we can damage them, she reported to the Emergency Science Committee, Centauri Trade. Commissioner Plexor brought equally bad news from the economic front. 3 major trading routes have been severed by the invasion. Food shipments to the inner worlds are being disrupted. If this continues, we'll face starvation before the Void Hunters reach us. As the crisis deepened, several Council species began making secret contact with the Terran Federation. The proud civilizations that had once considered humans too primitive to join their community now wondered if Earth's unconventional technology might be their salvation. The first secret envoy was Ambassador Kellor of the Altarians. His ship arrived at the Federation border world of Frontier Station, where he met with diplomatic officials in a carefully arranged meeting. The Altarians' proposal was simple: share human quantum technology in exchange for formal recognition of the Federation's sovereignty. We know you have no reason to help us, Kellor admitted to the human negotiators. But the Void Hunters threaten all organic life in the galaxy. If we fall, you'll face them alone. Similar meetings took place with representatives from 6 other Council species. Each delegation brought intelligence about the invasion, hoping to convince the Federation to intervene. The message was always the same: traditional galactic civilization was failing, and only human innovation could save them. President Rodriguez found herself in an impossible position. Her military advisors were divided between those who wanted revenge and those who recognized the existential threat. Public opinion in the Federation strongly favored letting the Council face the consequences of their past actions. They called us too violent to join their precious Council, said Senator Paul Grant during a heated debate. Now they want us to fight their war for them. Where's the justice in that? But Dr. Jennifer White, the President's science advisor, presented evidence that changed everything. Our quantum disruption technology can stop the Void Hunters, she announced to the assembled leaders. Nathan's research proves that their synthetic consciousness can't adapt to quantum interference. We have the weapon that can save the galaxy. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity possessed the key to defeating an enemy. That had brought the mighty Galactic Council to its knees. The species that had been rejected as too primitive now held the fate of galactic civilization in their hands. Captain Emma Davis prepared her ship for the most important mission in human history. The experimental vessel Quantum Storm carried the first human-designed weapons, specifically built to fight the Void Hunters. If her theories were correct, one small human ship could accomplish what entire Council fleets had failed to do. As reports continued to arrive from the war zone, one thing became clear: the Council's time was running out. Their fleets were being systematically destroyed, their worlds consumed, and their people scattered as refugees. Soon, they would have no choice but to formally ask for help from the species they had once rejected. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places. Chancellor Vextar's ship limped into the Sol system with engines barely functioning and hull plates missing from recent battles. The once proud Zephyrian leader sat in his damaged command chair, staring at the sight that greeted him. Earth's defenses were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Thousands of ships patrolled the system in perfect formation, their sleek hulls gleaming with advanced armor and weapons. "Chancellor, we're being scanned by at least 50 different sensor types," reported his communications officer. "Some of these energy signatures don't match anything in our databases." Vextar nodded grimly. The humans had clearly advanced, far beyond what anyone had imagined. His delegation included representatives from 12 council species, all of them refugees from the Void Hunter invasion. They had come to Earth not as conquerors or judges, but as beggars seeking salvation. "Incoming transmission from the Terran fleet," announced the officer. "They're offering escort to Earth orbit." 6 human warships surrounded the council vessel, guiding it toward the blue planet that had once seemed so insignificant. Vextar recognized the irony. 75 years ago, he had been among those who voted to reject humanity's application for council membership. Now he was coming to Earth to plead for their help. President Kevin Torres waited in the rebuilt United Nations building in New Geneva. The massive structure had been designed to accommodate representatives from dozens of different species, though it had never been used for such a meeting before. Torres stood at the window, watching the alien ship descend through Earth's atmosphere. Under heavy escort, Admiral Tony Miller joined the president, his expression serious. "Our sensors detected weapons damage on their hull. The stories about the Void Hunter invasion are true. They're getting closer to the inner systems every day." Behind them, Jake Morrison reviewed the diplomatic protocols for the historic meeting. The elderly statesman had seen humanity's journey from rejection to this moment of triumph. His hair was white now, but his mind remained sharp. This meeting would determine the future of galactic civilization. "Remember, they need us more than we need them," Torres said to his advisors. "But we also have a responsibility to the innocent lives caught in this invasion." The council delegation entered the assembly hall with none of their former pride. Vextar led the group, his blue skin pale with exhaustion and stress. Behind him walked representatives of species that had once considered themselves superior to humanity. Now they all looked desperate and defeated. "President Torres," Vextar began, his voice hoarse from weeks of desperate communications, "I come before you not as Chancellor of the Galactic Council, but as a being whose civilization is dying. The Void Hunters have consumed half our territory. Our fleets are shattered, our worlds are burning, and our people are scattered as refugees." The assembled human leaders listened in silence as Vextar continued his plea. 75 years ago, this council made a terrible mistake. We rejected your application for membership based on fear and prejudice. I was among those who voted against you, and I have lived to regret that decision every day since. Torres remained seated, studying the alien leader with calm eyes. "What exactly are you asking of us, Chancellor?" "We need your help to stop the Void Hunters," Vextar replied. "Our intelligence reports indicate that your quantum technology might be effective against them. In return, we offer immediate council membership, full recognition of the Terran federations, sovereignty, and reparations for the decades of isolation we imposed upon you." Senator Paul Grant, Colonel Lisa Grant's son, stood up from his seat. "Chancellor, with respect, your offer is meaningless. The council you represent is collapsing. Half your member worlds are gone, and the other half will be consumed within months. You're offering us membership in a dying organization." The words hit the council delegation like physical blows. Several alien representatives looked away in shame, while others struggled to maintain their composure. Vextar's shoulders sagged as he realized the truth in the human's words. President Torres raised his hand for silence. "Senator Grant speaks truthfully, but perhaps we can discuss something more substantial. If humanity is to risk our forces against this threat, we'll need more than promises from a failing government. The negotiation that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. The council representatives, once proud rulers of space-spanning civilizations, found themselves accepting terms that would have been unthinkable just months earlier. The old council would be dissolved completely, replaced by a new galactic assembly, where every species had equal representation. The Federation would have veto power over major decisions, and human colonies would be granted the same status as ancient core worlds. Dr. Jennifer White presented the scientific evidence that sealed the agreement. Our quantum disruption technology can indeed stop the Void Hunters, she announced to the assembly. But stopping them will require a coordinated effort involving every remaining ship in the galaxy. This isn't just about saving council worlds anymore. It's about saving all organic life from extinction. The urgency of the situation forced rapid decisions. Within days, Captain Emma Davis led the first joint human council fleet toward the front lines. Her ship, the Quantum Storm, carried weapons that no council engineer had ever imagined. The sleek vessel moved through space using human tunnel drives, arriving at battlefields faster than traditional ships could follow. The first battle against the Void Hunters changed everything. Council forces had been retreating for months, unable to inflict significant damage on the mechanical invaders. But when Emma's weapons fired, the results were devastating. Quantum disruption beams tore through Void Hunter ships like paper, their adaptive systems unable to compensate for the energy patterns. Their quantum matrices are collapsing, reported Emma's science officer as they watched enemy vessels break apart. They can't process the disruption frequencies fast enough to adapt. Word of the victory spread throughout the galaxy within hours. For the first time since the invasion began, organic forces had not just stopped the Void Hunters, but actually driven them back. The psychological impact was enormous, giving hope to billions of refugees who had thought their civilizations were doomed. The war that followed lasted 6 months, with human quantum weapons leading the counterattack against the mechanical invaders. Council forces provided support and logistics, but everyone understood that humanity was saving the galaxy. The final battle took place at the edge of known space, where the last Void Hunter fleet was completely destroyed. In the aftermath, the promised political changes became reality. The old Galactic Council was formally dissolved in a ceremony attended by survivors from dozens of species. In its place rose the Galactic Assembly, with Earth's representative serving as the first elected speaker. Jake Morrison, despite his advanced age, was chosen to deliver the opening address at the Assembly's first session. He stood before representatives from across the galaxy, many of whom had once considered humans too primitive to deserve recognition. Today, we begin a new chapter in galactic history, Jake said, his voice carrying clearly through the Great Hall. We are no longer divided between those who rule and those who serve, between the accepted and the rejected. We are all equal citizens of the galaxy, united by our shared commitment to freedom, justice, and mutual respect. The final scene showed human and alien children playing together in the gardens of New Geneva, while overhead, ships from dozens of worlds traveled freely between the stars. The motto carved above the assembly entrance read, "From rejection to redemption," words that had become the guiding principle of the new galactic civilization. Humanity had not just returned to galactic society. They had transformed it into something better than anyone had ever imagined possible.